live Saga TV. Of course, a lot having happened in Kenya in the last 3 days or so. You understand we have to talk about this. I always say that when we keep quiet about it, it will haunt us. But when we talk about it, then we get to understand what is the state of affairs. So if you come on board, guys, just be respectful and consider the community expectations. Disclaimer, not sent by anyone to be here. I'm doing this for my own critical analysis purposes and also just to inform about the ongoings and have a critical outlook at whatever happens. Now, remember, when we look at last year and what happened in demonstrations, there was the controversial tax bill, right? Now this year, unfortunately, people did not have even to pay attention to any tax, the bill, and they do not know the nitty-gritties within it. We are relying basically on what the government has decided, and of course it has to go through because no one is actually paying a lot of attention apart from few people. I saw the other day Wamchomba talking about it, and I also didn't even get time to pay attention in depth. Maybe with time I'll be. Now, if you're a Kenyan, of course, by now you should have filed tax returns because we have only 3 days down the deadline. We normally file our returns every June, if someone else is an audience here. So I'll encourage you to go file returns, even if it's nil returns, do so to avoid penalties. However, the tax is really pressing on the citizen. Now, that is last year, protesters were blocked from getting to Parliament. And now today, our topic is related to Parliament. So we start from there. Let's take a few minutes and look at this before we proceed. Now, this is how police were blocking protesters from Parliament. And now, this year after demonstrations, we have had drama in Parliament. So let's start from there.
We'll be voting on it, but out here you see this huge police presence to make sure that these protesters do not get to the National Assembly. They've been here all afternoon, and the protesters back there say we are peaceful. They should not be trying to break us up. But what we've seen all afternoon is tear gas and water cannon constantly trying to push them back. They then come back, regroup, sing the national anthem, have banners asking President Ruto and his government not to pass this bill. And then they keep getting pushed back again. I want to speak to one of the people who's here. Is with me. You are a young lady, Faith. This is your first time in your life protesting. Why are you out here?
Hello, I'm protesting because you cannot tax pads. Period is not a choice.
So guys, that was the state of affairs last year, and I've started there just as protesters were being blocked to get into Parliament, and finally you saw what happened with protesters getting into Parliament, messing up everything. And of course, at the end of the day, we are told that so many of those disappeared. Now, this year we've had a different situation. The government said that demonstrations were illegal, right? And the current opposition, because we are now not really using ODM as the only opposition, the party that was formed by Gachagua and his allies came strongly saying that protests should go on. Now, unfortunately, in Kenya, as I told you in another video, when we call for peaceful demonstrations, it doesn't end up well. The demonstrations are never peaceful picketing that I've seen in other developed nations. Whatever the problem is, if it is the mindset of the people, I do not understand. It becomes a room for people to mess around. I remember even when we were in the university, there is a time students decided to demonstrate because there was no water in the university, and the vice chancellor was going about planting flowers and all that. Yeah, students were having missed marks. We had issues here and there. And so students, I don't know, from nowhere we saw a demonstration happening in the university. At first, sorry. At first we thought that it's just a normal thing. Sorry, I have a cold, and of course that does not stop me from coming here. So it happened that even though most of us who didn't know the organizations, we thought that it was just something to, address the vice chancellor and the vice chancellor maybe may come out, or the chancellor, and they address students and everything stops. It was unfortunate that in the course of events, those who had organized went on to break into computer labs, the offices, and so much harm was done. So at the end of the day, we ended up at night, people running all over, police chasing everybody, and by 4 in the morning, we were ordered to leave the university. It was hell. So Kenya, generally, protests have never been peaceful. Not at all. I don't know if going forward, people should look for other ways of communicating. However, it's unfortunate that our leaders in Kenya hardly just listen to what people are saying. However much you complain, people ignore, and they use force at some point. If people use, for example, social media to communicate, some of them are called and they never appear again, or they are called and they are molested. So the freedom of speech is not helping. Negotiations, when they are called, they'll call people who are not, in fact, the complainants. Maybe people are friends to them and they'll now call a press. Those people represent, but they are not representing anyone. So that's the unfortunate state of Kenya. I hope that God will just see us through and we find a way of having these negotiations that really get to work and give us what we want. Now, after demonstrations, Murkomen came up with this speech, which has really sparked a lot of emotions and different views from different people. Some feeling that he was right to say what he said, and some feeling that it was not right. So let's briefly look at Murkomen's speech and now get to Parliament to see what exchanges came up there, and which are reasonable, which are unreasonable, right? So this is the drama of after demonstrations and what the leaders had to say. Now, Murkomen, the CS of Interior, now he came up saying that the police had done a very good job, in foiling the attempted coup. Why did he say so? Because everywhere people are shouting, Ruto must go. That's his argument. So let's listen at him and see whether he really addressed people in a reasonable way. Remember, there's a time Matiang addressed the nation after such an incident, and we've had other CS. So compared to that, let's not just reason in terms of thinking about what my emotions are taking me to. Now let's look at Murkomen here.
Police officers who did a very good job yesterday, you have my full support. 100%. Even if you need a lawyer or you need
anything, did you hear what he said?
You have my back, and you have the back of this ministry, and I have your back actually, and I have your back, and the ministry has your back, and the government has your back. If you are a police officer and you are being threatened with some character saying that you committed any excesses, there is no police officer who committed any excess yesterday. Police officers foiled a coup, and they deserve our defense. They don't carry guns as toys. When you threaten a police officer, you want to kill them. When you target an armory in a police station, when you steal guns, when you ban guns, when you ban a police station, you want us to celebrate you and bring you a birthday cake. We must be serious as a country. And as long as I have this responsibility, a policy responsibility of speaking on behalf of our police officers, we must defend them, because it is now clear the coup plotters are not sleeping. And while they were going around campaigning against policemen for the last 3 weeks, their campaign was not a genuine campaign for the reform of police officers. They wanted to sufficiently scare us and scare the police officers so that they can have a...
So guys, we will continue to watch this, but I want you to look at this. I want you to look at this first. Right. Let's look at this very fast. The birthday cake. Did protesters expect birthday cakes? That is a message from Murkomen. You know, a birthday event after torching down, yeah, the police stations. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, if we watched, the torched down police stations included Dagoretti. We had another situation in a different place, of course. Let's just see during these demonstrations. And we saw at Dagoretti, young people, all, of course, you know, getting to even steal the guns. We don't support this. We don't support this. But then, is it really true that everywhere else people are touching down police stations and stealing guns? Did we have any place where there are peaceful demonstrations, people not trying to attack the police? That's a question that I'm putting out to you. If you really watched the demonstrations, yeah? Do we have people who suffered, yet they were not part of the demonstrators? Take a case of Kitengela, for example. This young man who was in a gym with the rest of them. And while in the gym, a gun, you know, was shot and a bullet got to his neck. Take an example of a Form 4 student who was coming from school and a bullet got into his head. And the parents were just told, finally, that their son has been, you know, attacked. And so many others. We have a lady who was also raped in the process, I think in the evening of that very day. So when Murkomen speaks like this, is he just taking a percentage of what stations were banned? Yeah. Is he just taking the few areas where some of these things happened? Of course, we heard that Thika Road was the worst and CBD partly. But do we have any situation where there was too much force? Now, people took us back to the call the president received while at the funeral at Kilifi. And there are so many questions about why he received the call. According to some, he may have received a call from the CK in charge of, is it communication? So that he can have an order to switch off the stations which were showing live about the ongoing demonstrations and the events in the field, because they were offhand, you know, exchanges between the police and the demonstrators, you know, people being pulled down, fire all over, you know, running up and down. Then others felt like it was a directive maybe from the interior, of course, Murkomen being the key person here, on what way forward, now that they are calling it an attempted coup. So ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. Let's look at the torched police station here. 9 police stations, 2 national. Let's look at this here.
The damage caused is still burning of this devastation.
That is Kikuyu Law Courts.
The fire that raised the Kikuyu Law Courts during Wednesday's protests is still burning, with smoke visibly billowing into the chilly air. Just hours before the flames consumed the building, its courtrooms were alive with justice seekers. Now, they stand as hollow shells, completely destroyed by the inferno, out by terrorists.
The extent of this damage is not just an act of criminal elements, but an act of terrorism.
The adjacent national and county administrative offices were not spared either. Everything reduced to ashes, swallowed by the relentless blaze. Even the Kikuyu police station, nestled beside the government buildings, suffered severe damage. Burned 9 vehicles belonging to the assistant county commissioner. The national registration officers were not spared in the chaos either. Tunaota buza hapa ambayo ilikuwa inasaidia wakati wa kiangazi. Inasaidia mashule yetu ya secondary.
Yeah, so guys, you saw the kind of damage that we have seen there. And of course, at the end of the day, 9 police stations were torched down. 2 national and county government administration offices were vandalized, and several vehicles were burned. Whether they are goons or the demonstrators, we as Live Saga TV cannot account for that. However, from the government end, it is indicated these were demonstrators. And of course, even if they are not demonstrators, according to them, it is the demonstration that allowed this. Now let's go back to another individual who talked about the same situation, and of course, here it is. Now let's play it. Let's play it here as we go on with the discussion. If you are live, you can communicate just to appreciate that, so that I can appreciate your presence here. I thought, of course, you've heard Koome indicating clearly that the criminals were out there to do what they had to do. We have another discussion that will be held later, just to look at the nitty-gritties of this. But here, we are just looking at CS MURKOMEN plus the parliament. So let's get back to MURKOMEN here, what he just had to say again here.
A free passage to commit the crimes that we saw yesterday. If it was not for the police officers, we would not be having this country today. We would not be sitting here to make statements. And therefore, our police officers have my full support. And I will defend them against all the orchestrated attacks that want to paint police officers as if they are lesser human beings and not daughters and sons of this republic. Therefore, it is urgent as a nation to put in place a legal framework that operationalizes Article 37 of the Constitution to ensure that demonstrations are carried out in an orderly manner. This entails providing sufficient information on the planners, purpose, day, time, and demonstration.
So guys, you've heard CS MURKOMEN saying that now the constitution will have to be reworked so that whoever is planning a demonstration has to state why, when, where the demonstrations have to be conducted. And the planners must put their names, yeah, in such a framework so that they'll carry the blame for whatever. I think that is the way forward. Whatever damages will be conducted, these planners will be responsible. That's what is going to happen here. So, given that Kenya people cannot have a peaceful demonstration, the responsibility is being taken back to the planners. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you remember very well, the push for this demonstration was not just from, few individuals, as it is being said. Currently, it is being indicated as if it's Gachagua, Matiang'i, Kalonzo Musyoka, of course, we saw him on the streets. Okia Mutata. We saw, who else did we see in the political park? You can mention if you remember. They are the ones who actually planned for this specific demonstration. Now, according to MURKOMEN, it was intended to hold a coup against Ruto. Now, ladies and gentlemen, funny enough, we have individuals who could say that State House awako, so wacha tuangoje, like they are not in the State House, so let's wait for them. We also saw Gachagua did not show up on the streets, neither did Matiang'i. The only person we saw was Okia Mutata. Let me see. Politicians who showed on the streets. To demonstrate. recently. Of course, I saw Okia Mutata with the young people. 25th June. Yes. We may not get this video because I've used it before. But if we get it, the better. And if we don't get, you can check on other videos earlier. Here it is. I think I can see it here. I can see it here.
That in 2023, some of us were nearly killed in Madare. That time we are demonstrating peacefully against the high cost of living.
Here we can see that this group,
those demonstrations of 2023 led eventually to the establishment of the National Dialogue Committee team 1 month when we are burying Brian. That is not our culture. Justice for the fallen young heroes of 25th of June. And today...
Now remember, in the process of the whatever happened, though we'll share that in a different video, we saw Kimani Chungwa's place of offices being torched down. Of course, this is not a discussion focused towards that. And now Murkomen comes out and says there are few individuals who wanted to conduct a coup. I don't know, in your thought, what is your thought about the demonstrations? Was it a coup per se? Let's look at this. Now, of course, Okia Mutata was there. Let's hear what he'll say here.
Many years back, when there was a guy who had chained himself outside Vigilance House, big chain, big padlocks, and he was shouting there and saying all those things. And, you know, the news was brought to news desk and we were all laughing. I was like, "Which man attacking any?" We did, out of every 100 shillings, 82 goes to pay a loan. Loans which never came here to do anything, which we don't understand. So we must get up to a point whereby we realize that Kenya must have a balance sheet. And the balance sheet, they fear something or the state has an issue on them, but... Or they'll be intimidated. Yeah, and you'll find that you work very well in the lower courts. The upper you go can be very rosy, but in a country like Kenya, whereby about 90% of the wealth is in the hands of get voters' cards, ID and voters' cards, so that in 2027 they are prepared to vote.
Indeed. Yeah, so of course you've seen Okia Mutata talking there and saying how he was against moving to the State House. And of course he's trying to clear airs on why he was there. Now let's get to the conversation in Parliament, just a few of them, and see what they are talking about based on the demonstrations that were held. Yesterday I heard about Wanjiku shouting and says, was Gachagua in Kakamega, was Gachagua in Nakuru, was Gachagua in Kajiado, was Gachagua in Mombasa? Because currently there's an arrangement to arrest him. And this is in relation to the demonstration that we just observed in Kenya. Now, I don't know what your thought is, but that is the state of affairs. Now, let's get to Parliament
the new
yesterday.
Mr. Speaker, is the strongest Bill of Rights in the world, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, secondly, I sympathize and empathize with the people who lost lives in the demonstrations of yesterday and the previous ones. It is not good for Kenyans to lose their lives in that kind of manner. So we sympathize with them and we want justice for them, Mr. Speaker, so that anybody who might have committed any crime to be brought to book. But having said, Mr. Speaker, what happened yesterday in our country was not the normal demonstrations. It was not a Gen Z demonstration, Mr. Speaker. It was a political event that was meant to overthrow the constitution and the existing governance of this country, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, so you've heard that guy there. According to this individual in parliament, he's indicating that even though he's sorry about the death of many individuals, whatever happened there was not just demonstrations. Rather, it was an attempt to pull down the constitution. So, I don't know. In your view, and based on what Murkomen has said, and based on what you watched, what is your thought? Now, let's get to another individual, Ichungwa, here, and hear what he'll say.
For us to be clear on what the motion is asking us to. Cardinal, Honorable Speaker, June 2024, 25th of June 2024, with the unfortunate incidents that happened, Honorable Speaker, we let it pass. If you can protect me from the member for Narok County and the member for Elgeyo Marakwet. Honorable Speaker was saying June 2024, we let it pass. And two sitting members of this House, who are being investigated by the Director of Criminal Investigations, rushed to court, obtained orders to stop their arrest, following information that the DCI had that they were involved in the mobilization of goons that looted from the people of Mount Kenya in Nairobi, including the burning down and death of Kenyans at the Sunbeam building somewhere along Kimathi Street, Honorable Speaker. They continue to be protected by the judiciary, Honorable Speaker, through that court order. Court orders using anticipatory bails cannot be into perpetuity, Honorable Speaker, because we are breeding impunity through this. It's not just the locals that were destroyed in Kikuyu. The DCC's office was also raised down. I dare say today, Honorable Speaker, in this House, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua is the one who directed goons he mobilized to go and murder my parents, destroy my property in Kikuyu, destroy the property of the people of Kikuyu in the name of revenge.
Okay.
Speaker, we cannot...
So, Kimani Ichungwa there is indicating, of course, he's already directly said that everything around here was as a result of Gachagua. And he has pointed out that the Kikuyu office were burned down from after orders from Gachagua. Now remember, Gachagua has been moving around the country, talking about the government and supporting the Gen Z to riot. Let's listen from the bad girl here and hear what she'll have to say. Now I don't know if you're taking notes and you really see what will be due here.
The media has forgotten that we also lost loved people in Kisumu. Maybe because they come from Kisumu, they do not matter. But I want to offer condolences to every family who has lost a loved one. Mr. Speaker, Article 37 guarantees a right to demonstrate peaceably and unharmed. And Mr. Speaker, I'm one of the people who pushed for that article in the Constitution, and I will defend it with my life. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, it was very sad to see what happened yesterday. Mr. Speaker, ODM and Azimio have become the experts in demonstration, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, when we were doing that, we were called anarchists, we were called...
Bear fidelity to history.
Exactly.
You as truly here was with you in COD and NASA.
Yes, yes, Mr.
ODM.
No, I've said ODM and Azimio and NASA.
Yes.
And COD and all those. But the constant one is ODM. Mr. Speaker, for me as Emilio Odhiambo, I can't cheat you. I thank God that I'm resting, Mr. Speaker. I don't think people understand what it means to go to the streets. I understand when the Gen Zs are writing letters to their parents saying may not come back. I would tell my husband that because they didn't know I'd come back. So let us be. You called us names, Mr. Speaker. You called us names. You said we are anarchists and all that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, but who is God? God creates balance. Mr. Speaker, You called us names when we were fighting for the same rights you are fighting for. Mr. Speaker, now, or that you say to be fighting for. Mr. Speaker, now instead what you are telling us is that Baba is sitting and observing table manners. Mr. Speaker, if you can give me 1 minute, Mr. Speaker, because I was interrupted, or 2 minutes. Mr. Speaker, it's difficult to be Baba. You are damned if you do, damned if you don't. So, Mr. Speaker, we are only learning from the best. You have observed table manners since independence. Let people from the lake also observe table manners. For once, let us also observe table manners. And take over, and I've had
now
people
Millie
say,
Odhiambo is trying to say that demonstration for once were not very violent in Kisumu. Now she's using an algorithm or law, the aspect of table manners here. Now let's hear what this MP, Honorable MP here, the Honorable says here.
Not to trivialize a very serious thing. Now, Mr. Speaker, my concern is this, that this regime unfortunately seems to be curtailing rights that are enshrined in our constitution under chapter 4. Mr. Speaker, the first one is the freedom to demonstrate, Article 37. Yesterday, you know that the police were trying to stop our youth from demonstrating, which unfortunately is against the constitution. Mr. Speaker, the right to life, police bullets have taken so many lives, and that is against Article 26. Mr. Speaker, the freedom for movement, which the minority leader has talked about, that people are coming from other places, is a right under Article 39. And Mr. Speaker, also the freedom of media under Article 34 has to also be respected. These rights are being trampled upon. But Mr. Speaker, more importantly, the reason behind yesterday's function is that we were coming to lay wreaths. Mr. Speaker, you know, you gave us permission. We laid wreaths even with members of this house, outside Parliament, with your permission. I had informed you that my leaders would also be coming to lay wreaths, and you didn't refuse. You only said they
I
don't
told
come
you he was not
into
welcome in the presence
You
of
said they don't come into Parliament.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, we laid the wreaths as the fence on the barbed wire that has been put, that is barricading Parliament.
To make sure that the institutions are protected.
Yeah, now guys, if you watch carefully in Parliament, there is a division. Those who feel the protests were okay and those who feel they are not okay, they feel at par with what CS Murkomen said, and the others are feeling like, no, he's infringing into the rights of human beings. That is the right to movement, the right of expression, the right of demonstration, and the right of different opinion. Now, I don't know up to now whether you think Murkomen is okay to have said that the police did very well and there was an they stopped. Now, when you compare 2025 to 2024, even though the demonstration, there's been a lot of looting and, shooting and what have you. When you look at 2024, I think there are so many youth who are lost, and that extreme ability for the youth to go into Parliament or State House was an extreme compared to this year. So I don't understand when that year it was not called attempted coup, but now it is unfolding coup. Now that Gachagua is not even in Parliament, in government, remember he walked out, or rather he was pushed out, and he came out saying that there was a committee formed after the demonstration last year to kill the youth. I don't know whether it has now been formed this year. Let's proceed to listening to more drama from Parliament before we end our discussion.
The properties of Kenyans are protected, and there is a rule of law. There is only one way of dealing with people who are lawless, and that is a very firm application of the law itself. Mr. Speaker, we don't want to have a failed state. If we continue with this kind of liberalism and right now, Gachagua should be in prison today. He should be out there recording a statement and going to prison and going to court. And so should be all those
support these young people. Honorable Maraga did not come to the streets because he just wanted to come to it is because of the concerns of young people. I'm perturbed by what Honorable Farah Maalim and the Deputy Speaker speaking about Honorable Maraga and those who've spoken about the former Deputy President. It is irresponsible.
What is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker,
Hey, are your cold emails landing in spam instead of inbox? is your current SMTP server provider?
An attempt to establish government other than by law. Article 3.2 is very clear, and it must be read out that any person, any attempt to establish a government otherwise than in accordance with this constitution is unlawful. We must be very clear, Mr. Speaker. Demonstrations are different from anarchy. What we saw in Mombasa were demos. What we saw in all those other places mentioned in the motion, that was anarchy, and it cannot be tolerated. Mr. Speaker, no question about it. Honorable Rigathi Gachagua must be arrested. And all the politicians that work under him, they should be arrested and investigated, because we have the conscience of our nation. We cannot solve our grievances by destroying what we have. The time has come for a candid conversation.
Now let's look at Didmas.
That were mobilized by an individual who want to use the tears of Kenyans who are losing their businesses and the blood that our young people are shedding to resurrect his already stifled political career. Honorable Speaker, the person who orchestrated, masterminded, and funded
us because we have a little bit relaxed on providing for justice. The justice we are talking about, the families that their children lost their lives. We need to organize for a national prayer, give them compensation, and shame the demons in the broad daylight. Mr. Speaker, number 2, the police have tried, and yesterday they exercised restraint. We have to take it that they must be beefed up in terms of their numbers. Whether it requires additional resources, Mr. Speaker. I came to Parliament yesterday and saw the work that they were doing. I want to applaud them, but they need to be increased in number so that we don't...
Which were at Matu and Wote, compared to Nairobi and other places. 4 people lost their lives. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge even the...
Sane,
Goon, which was going on, up to the point of county assembly could not sit because goons were employed by the governor and he was stopping the members of the county assembly from sitting. So we should condemn goons in all forms so that we get safe in Kenya. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, sorry.
Tongoyo, Chairman.
To condemn the whole thing and see what can be able to be done.
Wakili Mreo.
Online, not caring about whether the parents of that dead person know or whether the parents of that dead person or the family members would want to see the bodies of their dead being displayed on social media. I feel that this is a breach of the law and we should respect the dead, and we should, even if we take the videos, we should share them directly with the family, but not online to get...
State, Mr. Speaker, we need a country where we are ruled by the rule of law. I am ashamed. Two chief justices. In fact, I think I'm a better chief justice than some of those.
Kahangara.
And the women and the young people who lost their businesses. Were these people going to State House or were they going to State House girls? And what interest did they have in State House girls? And finally, Honorable Speaker, I want to say, they went burning police stations. Gen Z finished their demos at 4, and the goons that were organized came on the street to loot. And we cannot call the Gen Z the looters. We cannot call them the goons. They are goons who are sponsored by...
Through the back door, Mr. Speaker, and take this country to the dogs. I want to speak to the young people of our country, Mr. Speaker, wherever they are. May they be in my constituency or in other constituencies. That your good intentions of rectifying what is happening in this country, of speaking to the powers that be, has been hijacked and overtaken by selfish inward...
Yeah, of course, when you look at the parliament drama, I didn't find that Wanjiku was shouting whether Gachagua was everywhere in the country, but I heard that in one of the videos yesterday, Wanjiku shouting and asking whether he was everywhere. And of course today, Gachagua obviously will be arraigned somewhere to answer questions plus his allies. So one thing that is coming out clear is that CS Murkomen is going to stand with the police. If they were taken pictures of or whatever, they are not going to be answerable for whatever happened. Instead, the people who are going to answer the questions will be those who are planners. And of course, I saw some of those who came out. As mentioned in Parliament, we've heard of Maraga. We've heard of Gashagwa, the key person who has been mentioned. And I know they'll mention people like Okia Mutata. And of course, the allies of Gashagwa are Matiang. We have Sifura also had talked about this. I don't know. I've not seen him anywhere, though. We've had we had Kalonzo Musyoka. So guys, the state of affairs, if you look at what is being mentioned in Parliament and what will occur, is that every other member of the Parliament is feeling like the delay to offer justice to the people who fell down in 2024 and even the latest Albert Ojwang is the cause of all this, triggering emotions. Now, Gen Zs are there in the streets, but we also have goons. As you've just heard one of the members saying that goons arrived after 4. The rest of the Gen Zs had gone up to 4. I don't know how true this is because I watched this up to as late as 8. And you could not tell the difference between a goon and a Gen Z. And of course, as I've always said, desperation is the worst thing in life. Because when someone despairs, they don't even care whether they live or die. So, you see Junet and the rest of the people talking in Parliament, Millie Jambo, you know, Oburu, and every other person. Yeah, they are talking partly about supporting the lives of, families who have lost their lives. But they are too worried about the destruction that was done. So what does this then try to communicate? Their concern is in Gashagwa's intention. According to them, they believe Gashagwa is trying to raise, a coup. And they are saying that it's only in few places, especially Mombasa, that there were demos. Elsewhere, it was anarchy. I am not sure how true this is. But currently with the broad-based government, who are the whistleblowers? Who are the whistleblowers? When you look at the comment section, we also see a lot of citizens saying something like, somebody says, 1 year news of content creators to 25/6/2026. Another one says, the most bogus speaker ever. Another one says, your time is up, Junet. Another one has said, these are comments from just what I've shown you from Parliament. We can see one, why not support the parents who lost loved ones, emotional and financial, listen to Gen Z's needs and wants, open a deep conversation than rant on Rigathi for hours. Another one is Senator Oburu, ni 85 years, na huyu ndo mtu mnafuata. Naona Raila voting blocks, wanchezwa, especially Luos, musi tukane wa Kikuyu, musi tukane wa Jaluo, all that. They are Gen Z's parents. United Ichungwa think it's comedy, Central laughing at very serious accusations. Simple minds discuss people, great minds discuss ideas. Why are ODM people defending this government? DCI and IG Ichungwa, your parents are still alive, thank God, sincerely. But this same DCI and IG to investigate people have killed many wantonly. So, guys, if you look at the comments, citizens are not satisfied from the explanations of the drama in Parliament. They think that the Parliament is taking them for a ride and they are defending their power and the position as a broad-based government than defending the lives of citizens. Why ignore people who fell last year, a whole year, without talking about them, caring about what's going on until such a thing happens? Because if they had dealt with it, I don't think there would be demonstration on 25th. If they had dealt with this issue, compensated parents who lost their kids, had every other person who missed accounted for, nothing would have gone down like this. Now, one thing is that infringing the rights of the, media houses. How do you even claim, like Pasaris comes out claiming that it was wrong to show pictures to the social media before sharing to the parents? The role of if you look at Al Jazeera or any other station, they show these things because they have to inform people about what is happening on the ground. It's not about the families, It's not about the families who are losing. Even how do you even know about the family who have lost before? That would take a long time, But if we are going to get that information one-on-one, there is the role in that. So guys, this was just to bring out and inform on the ongoings. Now, looking forward, you can actually see that CS Murkomen is trying to say that there is an adjustment that is going to be on the constitution just to ensure that the police are protected more than citizens, just to ensure that more force is done. And from Parliament, we've also heard it's as if they are going to reinforce more individuals on the streets, like the police, when such things happen. How I wish the police were trained in a way that they would have to control, or even leaders, address these people before it becomes worse. If goons are being, assigned to places, we heard about such reports about Sakaja, about Sudi, and, not Sudi actually, but who was this from Masai? We heard about that. What was done? Nothing was done. Because before the demonstrations, we heard a lot about goons being organized. And did anyone talk about it? None. So why then should they come out blaming maybe one person or two and talking about a planned coup when we've had already other leaders organizing goons and they are still in this government? So then it becomes a chaotic situation for citizens because we do not know the head and tail of what's going on. When Ichungwa also says that the police have done so well, yet, as I've said earlier, there are people who lost their lives and they were not in demonstrations. Some were going on with their own businesses. In the gym, for example, coming from school, for example, even some in buses. I saw a bus being, having got tear gas within and it was burning as people struggled to get out. So before even a CS comes out and with such a report, I think it's very important that it's a committee that sits down and sees different situations of damages before making a conclusion that would hurt or rather ruin the country. So way forward, I think we are seeing what is going to happen. Controls on demonstrations, having specific people responsible for the demonstrations, so that the blame goes to them. That's what I'm just saying. But already the formed opinion is Gachagua and his allies should be arraigned in court. So let's watch for what will happen. Live Saga TV will be informed and get to inform you. Bye-bye.